Wait, they're supposed to cheer for Goldberg. What is up? GoodMicWork back at you finally. I apologize for being up a little bit later than normal. It's been a very busy past couple of weeks, and I knew that it was going to be really hard for me to get up here on Tuesday night or Wednesday to review Raw and SmackDown, so I apologize for it spilling into Thursday, but I promise you we have got a lot to get into tonight. It should be a really fun commentary. I'm going to take a look back at this past week's horrible Monday Night Raw and the disastrous segment with Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. We are going to review SmackDown as well, and then later on I will predict this Sunday's Hell in the Cell pay-per-view on the WWE Network, and I'm sure throughout the duration of the commentary we are going to get into a lot of Survivor Series talk as well. Might even get into a few other things at the end of the video, maybe some World Series talk or even some NBA talk. We'll see how that goes. Lots of stuff still going on behind the scenes. I've been referencing that a lot in the past couple of weeks. Some big things are coming to the channel between now and the end of the year. As most of you know by now, my WrestleMania Memories video, which was hugely successful for me, was pulled down by the WWE, those assholes. So I've been currently re-editing that. It's a lengthy process, but I'm working on it. Probably still a week or two away at least from uploading that. But I've got to swap out all of that video with pictures, and it's just a time-consuming process, so I'm just working on it a little bit at a time when I can find the time to do it. Also, I've been promising you guys DVD reviews. I'm working on 2. The first one is almost done, and the second one has just started. So give me a little bit more time on that, and you will have a relaunch of my pay-per-view and DVD reviews, and I'm going to give you 2 back-to-back, hopefully. Also, start emailing me questions again. It's time to do another Q&A, so I'm going to kind of get one of those on the back burner and upload it between now and the end of the year. So it's email only, goodmicwork@gmail.com. If you want to submit a question for the Q&A, you must send it to that email. But I'm ready to start accepting more questions whenever you want. So fire away, and I'll get that video uploaded to you in the very near future. I'm also working on a very, very special episode, something that you've never really seen from me before that I think is going to be a lot of fun. I'm not going to reveal what that is yet, but that will be coming in the next several weeks as well, probably around the beginning of holiday time. And of course, I got to start putting together some ideas for my year-end video. I might hold off on my Q&A. It might wind up just being a longer than normal or extremely lengthy Q&A to close out the year. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet. Don't have time this year to do any sort of mega project. I would love to redo the Deceased Wrestlers commentary that I did a few years back. That might be coming at the end of 2017, but there's no way I'd be able to put something like that together between now and December 31st. And of course, as you saw in the beginning of the video, that is another intro that I've done. So I've got 4 of them now that I kind of want to just rotate throughout my commentaries. And I figured I would do one that's kind of an homage to all the fan art that you guys send me. You guys have sent me some awesome stuff over the years through Facebook or Twitter or email or whatever. So if anybody wants to create any fan art for the channel, feel free to submit it to me, and I will include it in that intro from time to time if I keep getting more of it. So I thought it would be a nice thank you to all of you who have sent me some really awesome artwork over the years, and I absolutely love it. So I thought that would be a cool thing to do. Let's jump into what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to kind of backtrack. We're going to start with SmackDown, and then we will talk about Raw after that and predict Hell in the Cell since it is a Raw pay-per-view. So I want to kind of talk about SmackDown first. I liked SmackDown this week. You know, a lot of people debate which is the better show. Most people right now, I think the cool thing to say is that SmackDown is better. And I have to be honest, I find it easier to watch SmackDown because I really like the fact that it's 2 hours. It does kind of have a different feel to it than Raw, because it is a little bit newer of an idea. SmackDown airing on Tuesday nights and airing live is different from how they've always done SmackDown. I am absolutely in love with AJ Styles as the WWE Champion. I cannot believe how well it has worked out for him when he came into the WWE. So I love pretty much everything he's doing on TV. So I'm not sure if I can really say I like SmackDown better, because there's definitely a lot of things about SmackDown that I also hate. But there's a ton of shit I hate about Raw as well. So I don't know. I guess I'm torn in the middle right now. I don't know if I have a favorite between the two. But when it comes to these reviews, like I said, I think it's much easier to watch SmackDown than it is Raw. Raw, I find myself falling asleep. I have to tweet funny shit just to entertain myself so I don't just pass out watching that shit. sometimes. It's just 3 hours long and all those commercials. It's so goddamn annoying. So SmackDown just seems easier and less stressful to watch, to be honest with you. But I love this week's show. I thought it was a great ending to the show as well. Something that was just a tiny bit different and that, developed character and storyline and all of that stuff. And I think it's hilarious that the two most over things in WWE right now are, number one, a clipboard on Monday Night Raw, and this tiny little inbred-looking hillbilly that's getting this monster push in WWE. James Ellsworth is great. He seems like such a nice guy, and he's not half bad either. This is just some indie guy that they've thrown into the spotlight, and he's handling himself well in interviews. He's handling himself well in the ring, and he's not fucking up, and he doesn't look clueless out there or anything like that. And for a guy that just looks so pathetic, I'm really, really happy for the opportunity that he's getting. And the way it all went down, of course, I didn't even review SmackDown last week, so Ellsworth was able to get a victory over AJ Styles, his second victory over AJ Styles, when AJ lost it and got himself disqualified when Dean Ambrose is out on the outside of the ring driving him crazy. So the main event of SmackDown was going to be AJ Styles versus Dean Ambrose. AJ wants revenge on Dean, so Daniel Bryan says, okay, fine, you can have Dean Ambrose, but if Dean Ambrose beats you, he gets a title shot. So Ambrose was basically wrestling for an opportunity to get a shot at the title. Now, James Ellsworth is backstage throughout the whole show talking with Dean Ambrose, thanking Dean for all the help that he's given him, and asked him if he could return the favor. Let me come out to the ring with you tonight, maybe watch your back, stand at ringside. And Ambrose is like, don't worry about it, little buddy. I can handle this. And Ellsworth is persistent, and he keeps begging and begging and begging, and finally Dean's like, yeah, you know what, fuck it, come out to the ring with me, who cares? So you knew that was going to lead to something, and the finish was great. Ellsworth is out there, and AJ Styles hits him with a vicious through-the-rope drop kick right out onto the floor. Looked like he damn near killed the poor kid. AJ gets back in the ring, starts fighting with Dean some more. Dean eventually, I think, throws out or backdrops AJ outside of the ring again. He lands right next to Ellsworth. Ellsworth is now pissed off and just rears back and hits him with, as David Otunga calls, no-chin music, which I laughed my ass off. Completely lays out AJ. AJ sold it well, and Ellsworth, to be honest, delivered it quite well, too. And the referee kind of was like, what are you doing? And has no choice but to disqualify Dean Ambrose. And it was great. Ellsworth kind of realized what he did. He looked like he was literally crying out there. You felt so bad for the guy. He's got so much sympathy. And he realized that he fucked up, and he's like, oh no. And Dean Ambrose... one thing I will say, as good as that segment was, it was fucking overacting by Dean Ambrose. I don't like it when wrestlers go so overboard with it. Dean Ambrose kept grabbing his head like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that, and just kept... He was just acting the disappointment and the pissed off. All he really had to do was his jaw could drop, he could be pissed off, and he could be staring a hole right through James Ellsworth. That's all you needed to do when the story was told. He didn't need to be jumping up and down in there. We get it, WWE. We're not stupid. So my only critique of what I thought was a great ending of SmackDown was just a tiny bit of overacting by Dean Ambrose. But the overall way that it ended, I like it. That's what I like about SmackDown, that it's different. Look at all these part-timers and non-contract guys they have on SmackDown right now. They've got James Ellsworth right in the thick of the world title situation. You've got Rhino, who's kind of in and out. You got the Spirit Squad there. I have no idea what their deal is. You recently had the Headbangers come back. Shelton Benjamin would have been back had he not gotten injured. So there's just a lot of different faces, and SmackDown just seems like it's run a little bit differently. Where the hell's Shane McMahon? Have I missed that? I haven't seen him lately, and I think I missed what the explanation was for that. So on TV, I don't know what they're telling the fans or what he's off doing. You guys can inform me on that. But as far as the world title situation goes on SmackDown, Dean Ambrose has now lost the opportunity to wrestle for the title, which I guess is fine. You got to think about Survivor Series at this point, because for SmackDown, that is their next pay-per-view. So are they going to do a title match? Like, is Raw going to have a title match and SmackDown is going to have a title match, and then you're still going to have the Raw versus SmackDown 5-on-5 matches, or are the champions going to be involved in those 5-on-5 matches? So you got to think if AJ is just going to be one of the 5, it made sense for Dean to lose that match, since AJ probably wouldn't be defending the title anyway. So it almost seems like it's a time killer. I don't know if they're waiting for Cena to come back. I don't know if John Cena is going to be one of those 5. I don't know if Cena and AJ are going to have to be on the same team. So it just depends on how serious they take the Raw versus SmackDown matches. If they truly want to put the best of the best in there, or if it's just something silly like they did at WrestleMania all those years ago with like Laurinaitis and Teddy Long and Red versus Blue and just a bunch of jobbers in there fighting each other for brand supremacy. But if they take it seriously, and you got Owens and you got AJ, you got John Cena, you got Roman Reigns, all these guys being involved, I don't actually know which one I would prefer, to be honest with you. I mean, part of me wants Survivor Series to go old school and have all your big-time names, your champions, your top stars involved in the 5-on-5 matches, but I'm also a fan of title matches and singles matches and one-on-one stuff. So I guess it just remains to be seen how seriously the 5-on-5 men's match between Raw and SmackDown will be. If AJ does in fact defend the title at Survivor Series, then you would have to think he would probably be facing Dean Ambrose, and Dean Ambrose will wind up getting another opportunity somehow on TV. Maybe James Ellsworth redeems himself, maybe he goes to the commissioners or the GMs and begs for another opportunity for Dean, and Dean gets one, and then Ellsworth helps him, or something like that. I don't know. I'm curious to know if this kid has a contract yet. I'm sure he's got something. I mean, he's got a damn t-shirt on WWE Shop, and it's selling well. I mean, he's one of the top merchandise sellers in WWE, and all the t-shirt is a black t-shirt with his face on it. I hope they have him signed to some sort of a contract. It would be great to see this kid appear again in the future, maybe in the Royal Rumble. I don't know, WrestleMania might be a stretch, but definitely put him out there. I wouldn't even mind seeing him go heel. You know, Dean Ambrose is probably going to be pretty pissed off at him and is probably going to abuse him on next week's SmackDown a little bit. And maybe he gets fed up, and the week after that, he costs Dean Ambrose another opportunity to get a title shot, but this time he does it on purpose and turns heel and joins up with AJ Styles. But that could be a ways off. Right now, the kid's got a ton of momentum as a sympathetic babyface. So I like the whole thing that they're doing right now on SmackDown. The rest of SmackDown was okay. I was a little bit confused with the Kane and Bray Wyatt match. Kane and Bray Wyatt kicked off the show in a no disqualification match. Lots of Luke Harper interference in this thing. And then Randy Orton comes down to kind of even the odds and stands in the ring with Kane facing off with Wyatt and Harper, and then he just RKO's Kane out of nowhere, surprising the hell out of Wyatt and Harper, and Orton kind of slithers away, and then Bray just covers Kane for the pinfall and just stares at Randy Orton. Later on, Randy Orton has a backstage interview where they ask him, why did you do that? And he basically just says, if you can't beat him, join him. So the only thing I can think of, obviously, is that Randy Orton is just setting up Bray Wyatt. Randy Orton joining the Wyatt family would be stupid and wouldn't make any sense. So I'm assuming here that Randy Orton is just playing some games, which is silly, because if Bray Wyatt is so smart, you would think that he would not fall for this. So maybe next week Orton does something else to gain his trust, helps him win another match or whatever, or has an opportunity to hurt Bray Wyatt, but he doesn't, luring Bray Wyatt into a false sense of security, and then he strikes like the viper that he is the only thing I can think of here. And you got to wonder what their plans are for Survivor Series, if WWE wants to have these two guys in a match, or if one or both of them will be involved in the 5-on-5 match versus Raw. Speaking of the Survivor Series 5-on-5 matches, Nikki Bella took on Natalya in a one-on-one match, and the winner would become the captain of the ladies' team against Raw at Survivor Series. Natalya had approached Daniel Bryan backstage and says, hey, I think I should be the captain of the team. And he says, well, there's probably a lot of other girls like Nikki Bella that would also like to be the captain, so I'll tell you what, you can take on Nikki Bella one-on-one. The winner is the captain, but the loser won't be in the match at all. So they go out there and have the match. It wasn't bad. Nikki Bella is definitely getting better. And gosh, she looks so hot too. And then the finish was amazing. I mean, she had a beautiful counter, rolled through a surfboard type of move or whatever the hell Natty had on her, spun her around, and locked her in a 100 times more convincing STF than her boyfriend could ever put on someone. She gripped her hands and she yanked back on Natalya, and it looked awesome. And it was an amazing win for Nikki Bella, so I got a huge kick out of that. Carmella made an appearance and attacked Nikki after the match. So again, with these girls, you have to wonder what's going to happen. Is Natty going to find her way into this match somehow? I would assume that she would. You know, Natalya's a hell of a little worker. You got to have her in this match. And as far as Carmella goes, she's in the middle of this brutal feud with Nikki Bella. Is she going to be a member of the 5-on-5 team as well, and they're going to have to try to coexist, and then you're going to have problems? That could be a really easy way to get Nikki Bella eliminated if she starts fighting with her own fucking teammate and they get counted out or disqualified or something like that. Becky Lynch also made her return on SmackDown, did an interview with Renee Young. She's been out for a month with, I think, like an undisclosed injury. I still don't know what was even wrong with her. She was interrupted by Alexa, who is pretty funny. She is just a little spitfire. I absolutely hate her name. Alexa Bliss sounds like a porn star. I think it's terrible. I wish her name was something else. But she's good. She's a little bitch on the mic, and she's pretty damn fearless for somebody who only weighs 90 pounds. And then she starts brawling with Becky Lynch and kicks her ass. Did you see the way she threw her into that barricade? And then gets her back in the ring and then spray paints her back with a yellow streak. And that was the only part of her promo I didn't like, saying that you've had a yellow streak. I hate that insult. It's so Vince McMahon. That's such a Vince insult. Nobody even finds that insulting anymore. So then she, beats the hell out of Becky and gets her down and spray paints her NWO style, but instead of black, it's just a yellow streak right down her back. As a matter of fact, speaking of yellow streaks, didn't Hogan do that to Randy Savage on Nitro? Or a pay-per-view or something like that, painting a yellow streak down his back. So very outdated type of insult, but I like the viciousness and brutality of Alexa Bliss and the way she handled Becky Lynch in that fight pretty handily. Becky, of course, is still technically injured, and they do have the match on November 8th, which is election night here in the United States, on SmackDown. That'll be coming from Scotland, I believe, or something like that. So that show will obviously be taped. I guess they'll have to change the hashtag to SmackDown Taped for that week. Don't really see Alexa picking up the title on that show. Becky just won it. She holds the belt kind of awkwardly. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but she just didn't seem like she knew what to do with it. It's kind of like awkward people who don't know where to put their hands. It's like she just didn't know how to hold the belt or just kind of casually hold it. It just looked awkward. I don't know how to describe it. I don't even know if any of you noticed that. It's probably just me being anal. But I still think she's got some time to hold this belt. She really hasn't had a chance to defend it that much since she's been injured, since she won it. So unless she is still injured and she needs to take some time off, I really don't see Alexa Bliss taking that belt, at least not on November 8th. Let's see, what else happened on SmackDown? We had the Haight Bros beating the Ascension in a Survivor Series qualifying match, so the annoying-ass Haight Bros are on that 5-on-5 team versus Raw. We had a Miz TV segment with Miz and Maurice coming out with the Spirit Squad. Dolph Ziggler came out and confronted them and challenged The Miz and says, if you want a title shot or you want a rematch, you've got it right now. Let's do it. And The Miz pusses out. The tag champs came out to back up Dolph Ziggler, Heath Slater, and Rhino. And what wound up happening is they made a tag team title match between the Spirit Squad, Kenny and Mikey. Is it Mikey is the other guy? Against Rhino and Slater. And Rhino and Slater beat them. And Rhino nailed Mikey with a vicious gore, which looked awesome. And I'm curious about those guys too, specifically Kenny, because he still looks young enough. He looks in great shape. WWE loved him at one point, so I don't know if they are just on a small-time contract or if they're going to keep Kenny around and wind up doing something with him again, or attempting to do something with him again whenever this Spirit Squad reunion runs its course. As far as Mizzy and Ziggy goes for the Intercontinental title, I don't know when they're going to work again. It could be Survivor Series. They could be a part of the 5-man team, or they could work one-on-one. All that shit is still up in the air. I don't know if that's really going to come together until after Hell in the Cell. I did recently hear some rumors about them possibly breaking up The Miz and Maurice. I just think that's stupid. I don't know why everybody always has to break up. I understand that factions cannot live forever, and partnerships generally can't live forever either, but Miz and Maurice are two people that I think don't need to be split up. I think Maurice offers absolutely nothing by herself. I think she's great with The Miz. I think the two of them fit each other's character. They're married in real life. I don't know what it is about the WWE. They have this hard-on for like breaking up real-life couples. They did the same thing with Rusev and Lana. Don't break them up at all. They're great together. It's not broke, so you don't have to fix it. What in the world can you possibly do with Maurice by herself? What, so The Miz starts treating her like shit and then she turns babyface? The fans aren't going to give a shit about her. The women's division is solid right now. You're not going to put her in the ring again. And as far as making her just a personality on the show, I don't see what she can offer that you can't get out of another woman on the show already. So I think keep the two of them together. They're strong together, and there's absolutely no reason at all to break them up, at least right now. Maybe in the future or something like that, fine. But Maurice has only been back with the WWE for a short amount of time. You know, it's just they just can't stick with anything. They always got to break people up and shift shit around. I don't understand why they have to do that. The Miz and Maurice character presentation, I think, is perfect, and I love it, and I don't want them to fuck with it at all. So that pretty much does it for SmackDown. I did check out a little bit of Talking Smack. I did see James Ellsworth on there, apologizing profusely for what he did to Dean Ambrose. And Daniel Bryan is kind of letting James Ellsworth know that he could be fucked with Dean Ambrose coming after him after he screwed up so royally. So Daniel Bryan didn't seem like he had a whole lot of sympathy for Ellsworth, which was funny, but Renee Young kind of did. How cute did she look in that little leather jacket? Dean, you are a lucky man. But that's a nice, entertaining little post-show. I like that they do that. I like that when SmackDown airs, since it is shorter than Raw, it's only 2 hours, you can go over to the network and watch another half hour of interviews. So, and some of those have been really good, as we've seen. John Cena cut a really good promo on there already, and so did The Miz. So I think it's a nice little addition to SmackDown that is quite entertaining to watch most times. Moving on to Raw now. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this show because it wasn't very good. For a go-home pay-per-view show, it was rather weak. They spent the main event, of course, building for the WWE title match at Hell in the Cell between Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. Jericho comes out to open the show first, and he's freaking out because he's supposed to be in a triple threat match in the main event with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. But he can't do anything. He's not going to wrestle. He's not even going to leave the ring until the person that stole his list comes out and owns up to it. The list went missing. He couldn't find it. And some gutless, spineless piece of shit stole it. What kind of a sick fucking world do we live in where you would steal something as sacred as Chris Jericho's list? Jericho, understandably so, refuses to wrestle, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't wrestle either if somebody stole my fucking list. Stephanie comes out there, and so does Kevin Owens. They're both letting Jericho know that they had nothing to do with it. Seth Rollins, a guy that I used to love, somebody that I used to respect, comes out there, and it turns out that he's the one that stole the list. So maybe Bret Hart was right about him after all. Maybe he is a shitty wrestler and he hurts people. Stupid Seth Rollins, stupid idiot. Him and Owens cut promos on each other, hyping up the Hell in the Cell match. They both did a pretty good job on their promo as well. The segment drug on a little bit, but it wasn't bad. And Rollins still refuses to give Chris Jericho the list back, and he just leaves. The segment ends. So we didn't even know if the main event was going to take place. Chris Jericho looks for the list all night long. Rollins, I think, wound up giving it to Braun Strowman, and Jericho wound up approaching him and says, give me the list. And Braun Strowman was mad that Sami Zayn wasn't on the list, but Jericho was like, yes, he is. It's on page 42 or whatever. So Zayn is definitely on the list. I'm really glad they got that cleared up. Strowman did relinquish the list, and Chris got it back, so Monday Night Raw was saved. Luckily, Chris Jericho got the list back, and we didn't have to have a Monday Night Raw with no main event match. Even though I'm furious at Seth Rollins, I really did like the finish of the main event. I thought it was kind of funny, the way Jericho and Owens went for like a double superplex, and he countered it and threw them both down and pinned them both at the same time. That was pretty awesome. Kevin Owens goes absolutely apeshit after the match and attacks Seth Rollins and gives him a powerbomb on the apron that looked pretty damn vicious. And Seth was left there laying, requiring medical attention as the show went off the air. So that match is set up for Hell in the Cell. I will get into where I think they could go in this feud between these two guys when I talk about my predictions later on. And I got a lot of crazy ideas. There's all sorts of different directions they could go. And I think it could potentially be a lot of fun. So we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. The other major thing, of course, on Monday Night Raw that I have to talk about is the ridiculous segment with Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. Monday Night Raw emanated from Minneapolis, which is like Brock's hometown. He's from Minnesota. He went to college there. I know he lives in Canada now, but he still lives up in that neck of the woods. And Goldberg coming back last week, which was so epic. I was so happy for the guy, the way he came out there and got a warm reception from the fans. They were chanting their balls off for him. He cut a great promo. And I was worried about Goldberg coming back being lackluster or falling flat or the fans not giving a shit or not caring. And they proved me wrong last week. But then they proved me right this week. The guy went from the most over thing in wrestling to the most hated thing in wrestling within 1 week. Now, a lot of this could be because Raw was in Minneapolis, and that's Brock's hometown, and WWE is fucking retarded if they think they're going to get these fans to boo Brock Lesnar. It's hard for fans to boo Brock Lesnar as it is. And Paul Heyman, try as he might, he could not get the fans to chant Goldberg. The way it was supposed to go is that Paul Heyman is going to be out there talking about Brock Lesnar and how awesome he is, and the fans are going to annoy the shit out of him with a Goldberg chant. But it didn't go the way they planned. And Heyman even tries to trick the fans. You guys think it bothers me when you chant Goldberg, and they still would not chant Goldberg. Well, actually, I take that back. They were chanting Goldberg, but they were chanting Goldberg sucks. And they were clearly cheering for Brock Lesnar, and it was a fucking disaster. And I have absolutely no sympathy for the WWE. You should have known that that was going to happen. What are you going to do next week? Go to Calgary and then try to trick the fans into shitting on Bret Hart? It's not going to happen. I read online that Vince McMahon apparently flipped out and was pissed off, and they ended the segment early, which you could tell they actually did. Brock Lesnar's music kind of played at a strange spot, and I think the WWE just gave up, and they're like, okay, this is not going well, fuck it, let's get out of this, play his music and get these guys out of there, which is just such a shitty way to burn off one of Brock Lesnar's appearances. I mean, these things are already very rare and precious as it is, and you want to waste one in a completely disastrous segment like that. I think the WWE should have thought that shit through. The fans could see that. I think some fans were talking about this before Raw even went on the air. The fact that WWE didn't think about this is crazy, or the fact that they did think about this and they thought that the fans wouldn't care and would still cheer for Goldberg. You know, the smart fans were never too keen on Goldberg to begin with. I was never a big fan of his. I remember not even really liking him when he was at his most popular point. I'm happy to see him back now. I love the reception he got last week, but now it seems like it's all killed. And when you think about where Survivor Series is, it's in Toronto. A crowd and an audience base there that is very backwards and bizarre, and they do tend to cheer a lot of the heels most of the time. And I'm worried that at Survivor Series, they're going to boo the shit out of Goldberg. I mean, they booed the shit out of The Rock at WrestleMania against Hulk Hogan because they were all there to watch Hogan in that very same building take on the Ultimate Warrior all those years before. They had that nostalgia. Goldberg, I'm not sure if he's going to give them that same type of nostalgia that Hulk Hogan did, because Goldberg's run on top was #1 in WCW and was much shorter. Everybody in the world respects Brock Lesnar, and a lot of fans don't believe this is even a fair fight at Goldberg's age and condition compared to how Brock is such a mega beast. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if this whole thing blows up in the WWE's faces. I hope that it doesn't. I mean, the first Brock Lesnar and Goldberg match really sucked, in part that the crowd was onto them. They knew they were both leaving, and they were booing the shit out of both guys. And the crowd really played a part in ruining that match. And I would hate to see that happen to them twice. I mean, these two guys, at one time, this was truly a dream match. You know, when Brock Lesnar really got on the map, you thought to yourself, wow, if we thought Goldberg was an ass-kicking monster, look at this guy. This guy's even more believable than Goldberg. And what would happen if these two guys ever faced each other? And then when they did, it was all just a huge disaster because they were both leaving. I would hate for them to lose out on the opportunity to do this again and have the exact same thing happen to them, essentially, that happened to them at WrestleMania 20, where the fans just shit on the whole match. Because when you think about what kind of match they're going to have, it's going to be slow, it's going to be methodical, it will be high impact, you know, heavy punches, heavy forearms, heavy slams, suplexes, shit like that. But we're not going to see anything too crazy, I wouldn't think, out of these two guys during the match. They could surprise us, but given their age and wrestling styles, I don't see how it's going to be anything too spectacular. So in order for the fans to stay with this and stay into this, they really have to be into this idea that it's a mega match, a dream match, icon versus icon, and they basically just have to mark out to seeing both of these guys in the ring together. But if the fans are cynical and they want to sabotage it, they could definitely do that as well. So as of right now, after the response that Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar got from that Minneapolis crowd, I'm slightly concerned about their match at Survivor Series. Plus, I'm still wondering how it's going to go. I mean, it doesn't seem likely that Bill Goldberg could beat Brock Lesnar, but is Goldberg really going to come back just to get smashed by Brock and that's it? You know, I know they're going to probably do another DVD on him. He will go into the Hall of Fame at some point, possibly even this year. There's been talk of doing it this year, which could definitely work if he has a couple of more matches to finish out his career. One at Survivor Series, maybe one more at the Rumble. And maybe he doesn't work Mania at all. He just goes into the Hall of Fame as the headliner. That could definitely be a possibility. But when he says, when Goldberg said, Brock Lesnar, not only are you next, but you're last, I don't know if Brock Lesnar necessarily is last. Goldberg is all about coming back and being a hero for children, and he wants to wrestle and perform in front of his kids. For him to come back and do that, and Brock Lesnar completely rapes him right in front of his family, and that's it, and then that's Goldberg's last match, no way, I can't see that happening. So even though I can't see Brock Lesnar losing, I can't really see him straight up winning either. But we'll talk more about that as we get closer to Survivor Series. We also had the contract signing on Monday Night Raw between Sasha Banks and Charlotte, with Mick Foley moderating. And it cracks me up how Mick Foley just, one week he decides to dress up, and the next week he decides to look like a complete pile of shit. I will say this for him, he looks great. How much weight has Mick Foley lost doing that DDP yoga? Good for him. I wouldn't be surprised if Mick Foley is the lightest he's ever been in his pro wrestling career. And he also went apeshit in a promo, which I had a feeling he would do. He was the one there signing the contract between Sasha and Charlotte for this history-making Hell in the Cell match. A lot of people debate whether or not they like these girls in the Hell in the Cell. I'm willing to give it a shot. Why not? A lot of people were praising Mick Foley's promo on Raw. And I did like it. I mean, Mick Foley is an awesome promo guy, but I don't think I liked it as much as everybody else did. In a way, I thought it was Mick Foley taking away from the other girls. He was making it about himself, reliving his moments, telling them how brutal it is, and I had a tooth out of my nose, and I separated my shoulder, and it almost killed me, and it ended my career, this match. You ladies have to be prepared for what you're getting in there to do. But what he doesn't understand is that the Hell in the Cell matches today are much different than they were in 1998. The cell itself is even constructed a lot differently than it was. These girls are not going to wind up there on the roof of this thing, I seriously doubt, and nobody's going to be flying off through an announce table. So Mick Foley, while he did cut a pretty good promo and might have done a little bit to help the importance of the match if Mick Foley went out there and says, hey, you guys need to understand the significance of this, I understand that. But to me, it was almost made a little bit more about Mick Foley. And Sasha even said something funny when she was talking. She said that she's ready for the Hell in the Cell match because she studied every Hell in the Cell match on the WWE Network, and that she's a student of the game. So basically, she's a student of the game because she has the WWE Network. Well, if she went back and studied all those previous Hell in the Cell matches, you can't do any of the shit that they did in all those Hell in the Cell matches. You're not going to be able to crack a chair over the forehead of Charlotte the way Undertaker did to Shawn Michaels in 1997. It cannot and will not be as brutal as any of those matches that they've had in the past in the Hell in the Cell, up until they went to PG and all that shit. I will say this, though. I would like to see some blood. I really would. I would like to see Sasha or Charlotte get split open. Now, just once, just for the ladies. It doesn't have to be crazy or too violent or anything like that, but these girls are in a cage, and you never see women juice. And if they did just this one time, I think it would be pretty cool. And how crazy was a contract signing to end without any fighting? I mean, these girls didn't destroy the furniture, they didn't kick each other's ass, they didn't set the fucking ring on fire, all that stuff that you see in every single contract signing. I like the fact that after Mick Foley was done going nuts on the mic, that the two girls just signed the contract and said they were each going to beat each other and they hate each other, and then it was over. So that was kind of a nice change of pace for a contract signing. I loved it. The rest of Raw was garbage. What else do we have? Enzo beat Carl Anderson, which sucked. I think I'm officially no longer a fangirl of Anderson and Gallows. That team, I had such high hopes for them, and now they're just a fucking joke. Cesaro and Sheamus did beat the New Day in a tag team match, and a really good finish, too. So I told you that these two guys were going to start getting along a little bit more. They do have a title shot at Hell in the Cell. They had an arm wrestling segment with Dana and Bayley, and Dana cheated and punched Bayley right in the face when Bayley started winning. We also got that match between Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn that they set up for last week, but it wasn't much of a match. Strowman just walked off after he started fighting with Sami Zayn, and he threw him into the barricade and basically just refused to fight him. He doesn't consider Sami Zayn competition, and he wants more competition than that. And the match really never even got out of the blocks there, so I don't know what the deal with that is. I'm glad that Sami Zayn didn't have to go out there and get smashed by Braun Strowman. That was nice. I didn't really like the match between Bo Dallas and Kurt Axel, because Kurt Axel is out there cutting a promo in Minnesota, where his father is from, you know, putting over his dad, Mr. Perfect, and talking about the legacy, and he wants to live up to his dad's name, and things are going to change from now on. And then he goes out there and loses to Bo Dallas. So that was kind of a slap in the face to have this guy cut a promo about his Hall of Fame father in his hometown and then have him lose. Well, I don't know why they never did anything for this guy, or why they won't ever push him or anything. He's just there on the roster as a joke. So whatever, I guess. Bo Dallas is getting his push, and we'll have to see where that takes him. Other than that, the only thing I can remember from Raw is Rich Swann actually beat Kendrick in a pretty good cruiserweight match. TJ Perkins was on commentary for that, and of course TJ will be defending the title against Brian Kendrick at Hell in the Cell. So as we move on now to Hell in the Cell to start predicting that, hopefully this pay-per-view will be much better than its Go Home Raw show was, because damn, they did not do a very good job of setting this thing up. I only have 6 matches written down. I don't know if they could add a few more this week, or I mean, obviously they're going to have to do something on the kickoff show. Maybe something with Bayley and Dana Brooke, or possibly Bo Dallas or Braun Strowman or somebody. It seems like some match has got to be added somewhere, so I'm only going to predict the 6 that I have written down. We'll start with the tag team match between Enzo and Cass and Gallows and Anderson. I will tell you what, Gallows and fucking Anderson better fucking win that fucking match. It feels like they're pretty much dead in the water, but I'm still holding out hope that they can reclaim their ass-kicking ways and eventually make a run at the tag team titles, regardless of who the champions are. whenever New Day breaks Demolition's record. I really hope that Gallows and Anderson still have a chance. And maybe that was WWE's plan all along. Maybe they do want to give the titles to Gallows and Anderson, but they also want New Day to break Demolition's record. So they're trying to kill some time with Gallows and Anderson, but I think they could be killing their time a little bit better than having Carl Anderson, a badass, lose to a spazoid like fucking Enzo. So at the pay-per-view, I would like to see Gallows and Anderson win this match 100%. Tag team title match on the line, New Day taking on Cesaro and Sheamus. I'm gonna go with New Day. I know I said that Cesaro and Sheamus I felt could get a run with the belts. I think they could develop pretty dominant and unstoppable tag team. That's kind of what I was hoping for them. But given the fact that they beat the New Day on Monday Night Raw, I don't see them winning. I think WWE does want to have New Day win. Or I'm sorry, break Demolition's record of the longest reigning champion. What is it, 479 days, something like that? So they're still just a tiny bit of a ways off from doing that. And once they break the record, fuck it. Take the belts off of them the very next day for all I care. But I do think WWE wants to wait. So Cesaro and Sheamus, I think, will either have to wait to become tag team champions and hopefully feud with Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows one day, or they will not win the titles at all, and their short-lived partnership or friendship implodes, and they wind up being enemies again. But we got a best-of-7 series between these two guys already. Why do we need to have another feud between them? So, as far as I'm concerned, keep them together, but I don't see them winning the tag team titles at Hell in a Cell. TJ Perkins defending against Brian Kendrick. I'm going to go Brian Kendrick. Even though Brian Kendrick lost on Monday Night Raw, I think the storyline between TJ and Kendrick is pretty good, and if you gave Kendrick, the aging veteran, a run with the title to maybe have TJ eventually win it back from him down the road or something like that would be completely fine. Plus, it would help elevate Rich Swann, who got a victory over Kendrick on Monday Night Raw, and Kendrick could be the Cruiserweight Champion going into next week's Monday Night Raw. So it could be a win-win all the way around, and so I'm rooting for Brian Kendrick to take the belt from TJ Perkins. That's it for the undercard. Now we've got the 3 big Hell in a Cell matches, and here's the thing. All 3 Hell in a Cell matches are title matches. You have to think that one of these belts is going to change hands, and I'm having a really tough time deciding which one of these 3 matches they should have a title change in. So I'm going to go way out on a limb on this. I'm going to start with Roman Reigns and Rusev. This match, I think, of the 3 is the easiest to predict. I just think Roman Reigns is going to win. I love Rusev. I loved his run as United States Champion, but Roman Reigns, we all know how the WWE has pushed him and has felt about him since he came in with the Shield, and they've been determined to make this guy one of their next big top stars. They were about to make this guy the top star until he got suspended. He's a former 3-time WWE champion, and when you see all the good that John Cena did for that U.S. title, I think they want to have Roman Reigns have a similar run with the U.S. belt like John Cena did, where you have a big-time star holding it, and I think they're going to continue on that road. So Roman Reigns was in a Hell in a Cell match last year also against Bray Wyatt, so that's 2 years in a row for him. And as much as I would love to see Rusev get a big-time victory in a Hell in a Cell match like that, I don't see it happening. I think Roman Reigns is going to retain the U.S. title and beat Rusev. Sasha versus Charlotte was different. I was really close to picking Charlotte. I thought to myself, maybe I would just have her win the belt back again. I've kind of changed my mind. I think I'm going to go with Sasha retaining. I mentioned earlier that I would love to see some blood. I would absolutely love to see one of these girls bleed. And if Sasha is going to be the one winning, I would love to see it be her. I mean, Charlotte is bigger and stronger anyway, so if Charlotte starts brutalizing Sasha during the match and then maybe busts her head open on the steel steps or ring post or on the cage or whatever, and then Sasha is fighting through, you know, the blood and the pain and all this stuff and is able to still defeat Charlotte, and they hold her arm up in the air with her music playing and blood's coming down her face and she's celebrating. To me, that would be awesome. I mean, I don't think WWE is going to do it because they don't like so much blood, and whenever there is blood, the referees go in there with a towel and wipe it off. So I'm not saying that Sasha needs to bleed the way Randy Orton bled at SummerSlam or anything like that, but I think if she just got busted open and juiced a little bit, just to illustrate and highlight the brutality and the importance of this match, I think could add so much to a title victory like that. Not that these girls can't do a great job without the blood. I'm sure if they don't spill a drop of blood, the match will still be good. We will still see some amazing things. But I think the blood would just do a much better job of illustrating the struggle and the fight that these two girls are going through in that cell. So what I'm hoping for is, number one, that Sasha bleeds and that Sasha wins. I predict that she will retain the women's title against Charlotte, which means that we got to have a title change, right? I just said that. One of these 3 matches I would think has to have a title change. I really don't think they can afford to have everybody successfully defend the belts in the cage. So what I'm thinking is you actually give Seth Rollins the Universal title. He faces Kevin Owens in the cell. Kevin Owens already hurt him on Monday Night Raw and got the last laugh on the go-home show. So maybe Seth Rollins finds a way to win, either with help from Chris Jericho. Maybe Jericho fucks up, finds his way into the cell, or does something to cost Kevin Owens the victory. And Rollins winds up winning the Universal title. Now, here's why I'm picking Rollins, because I want Rollins to win the Universal title again, but I don't think that right now is a good time. I think Kevin Owens should continue his reign. So what I'm proposing here is Seth Rollins win the belt, but only win it back for a short time. I'm thinking of a scenario something like Rollins wins at Hell in the Cell, and then maybe Seth Rollins winds up having a rematch with Kevin Owens at Survivor Series. Or if Owens and Rollins are going to be involved in the 5-on-5 match, maybe they do the rematch on Monday Night Raw. And maybe Seth Rollins loses the belt back to Kevin Owens, possibly with help from Triple H again. Maybe Triple H didn't interfere at the Hell in the Cell because he couldn't get into the cage. When he waits for the rematch, maybe he comes out there and helps Kevin Owens win the belt again. And that could set up your Triple H versus Seth Rollins match, which I really don't want to see at WrestleMania. I would rather see that at the Royal Rumble, because it's in the Alamo Dome. There's going to be 60,000 people there. You need big-time matches in that pay-per-view. So I don't know if I want to see the predictable match between Triple H and Seth Rollins at Mania, which you know Seth Rollins is going to win, much like Triple H took on Roman Reigns last year at WrestleMania. I think putting Triple H and Rollins at the Rumble would make much more sense. That way, you can have Rollins maybe defeat Triple H at the Royal Rumble. And what if Kevin Owens, who is the Universal Champion going into the Royal Rumble, faces somebody like Brock Lesnar? What about that? What about those 2 big matches for Royal Rumble? Triple H versus Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens defending the Universal title against Brock Lesnar? And let's say that Kevin Owens is the one that instigates this feud. Let's say Brock Lesnar goes through his feud with Bill Goldberg or whatever. Kevin Owens ends up winning the belt back from champion Seth Rollins sometime between now and the end of the year. And then when Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar are on Raw randomly one week and Paul Heyman is cutting a promo, WWE Universal Champion Kevin Owens interrupts the promo and comes down and gets in Brock Lesnar's face and says, you know what, I can't be the man around here. I can't walk around with this belt and claim to be the best unless I end you, unless I conquer you. So me, as the champion, is going to challenge Brock Lesnar to a match at the Royal Rumble. Have Kevin Owens, the champion, be the one to challenge Brock. And then you have the match at the Royal Rumble, and you have Kevin Owens putting up a great fight, much like CM Punk did against Brock at SummerSlam, and have Kevin Owens almost win. Have Kevin Owens bloody and bleeding and fighting for his life, but eventually Brock Lesnar is just too much, and he hits Kevin Owens with like a 4th or 5th F5, pins Kevin Owens, and Brock Lesnar becomes the new WWE Universal Champion at the Royal Rumble. I don't think that's going to bury Kevin Owens. That's why I want him to be the aggressor. That's why I want him to be the one to make the challenge. I don't want Brock to challenge him. I want Kevin Owens to get in Brock's face. That way, when he loses, at least fans can say, wow, that was one brave son of a bitch. He got in there, got face-to-face with Brock, challenged him to a fight, put his own title on the line just to see if he could beat the guy, and almost accomplished that, but just fell a little bit short. I don't think fans would lose any respect at all for Kevin Owens if you booked the match with Brock Lesnar like that. And I think that is what could lead us to a potential Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar WWE title match at WrestleMania. It could be this long road for Seth Rollins. He came back and he won the WWE title at Money in the Bank, only had to have it taken away from him right after winning it. Then a couple of months later, he's able to beat Kevin Owens in the Hell in the Cell, only to lose it right back to him a couple of weeks later on Raw or at the next pay-per-view. And it could kind of be like how they did with Daniel Bryan, the way Daniel Bryan quickly won the title from John Cena at SummerSlam, only to lose it to Money in the Bank holder Randy Orton. You know, him getting so close, he has a taste of it, a cup of coffee with the title, but never wins it in the correct way, and he keeps having to fight all these obstacles, and Triple H is in Seth Rollins' way, and fucking up and costing him world title matches, and he just cannot get his hands on that belt. Finally, he faces Triple H at the Royal Rumble and defeats him, and goes on to have the big main event match against a man like Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and he winds up beating Brock clean, and Seth Rollins closes WrestleMania winning the WWE title. That's the direction I would actually like to see them go. A lot can be changed about that. They can tweak a lot of things up. They could still do Triple H and Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. They could also do Kevin Owens and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania if they wanted. But I think the scenario I laid out might be the most fun. And plus, we don't even know what's going to happen with the Royal Rumble this year. It's going to be Raw and SmackDown guys. I don't know if they're going to go back to the way they used to do it years ago, where the winner of the Royal Rumble gets to challenge whatever champion he wants. I don't even know if I want to see that, because that means a guy can switch brands. A Raw guy could win the Royal Rumble, but then go to SmackDown to challenge for the WWE title. So I don't know how they're going to work the Royal Rumble yet or what the rules are. So looking way ahead to WrestleMania is what makes me think that WWE could, in fact, give the title to Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. So I'm predicting Seth Rollins to walk out of Hell in a Cell as the new Universal Champion. I will be up here live tweeting during Hell in a Cell to see how accurate my predictions turn out to be. Let me know what you think is going to happen, what you think of my predictions, what your own predictions are, anything you would tweak or change in the main storyline idea that I just gave you there for Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And it should be fun to see how accurate we turn out to be. Before I get out of here, just a few other news. Nothing really new to report on the TNA lawsuit situation with Billy Corgan. The company is a mess. They are in dire straits right now. It's a complete shit show. There actually was some sort of a court hearing today, apparently, as well. I watched a few seconds of it, but I guess some of the lawyers were stating their cases, and a lot of the specifics of the case have been unsealed for the public to take a look at. So I'll have to look a little bit closer at this to see what all the details are. But apparently, whatever was discussed today, some sort of a ruling on all of this will be made on Monday. Billy Corgan, from what I understand, is trying to gain full control of the company, but everything's such a mess with all the different people that hold their licensing and the people they owe money to and the tax liens from Tennessee and all this shit. It's a mess. It's a complete mess. So I guess we'll find out more on that next week sometime. I mentioned earlier on that I wanted to briefly mention the NBA and baseball. The only reason, really, I wanted to mention the NBA is because The Undertaker was backstage in Cleveland. Random as hell. Why was The Undertaker in Cleveland? I'm thinking maybe they used The Undertaker's theme song. I know a lot of professional teams use Taker's theme music when they're doing their entrances and shit, so maybe that's why he was there in Cleveland. But he was there to celebrate with the Cavaliers, who raised their banner. But I'm so happy for the people there, and I'm so happy that after all these decades and decades and decades of heartbreak and failure in professional sports, that they not only get to raise a championship banner in one building, but right down the road they get to host a World Series as well. You know, another thing that they have not done in a long, long, long time. It's been a long time since the Indians won a World Series. I do think they went to the World Series in the 90s, I believe. I think the Braves beat them, if I'm not mistaken, but it's been a long time since the Indians have won anything, and it's been a long time since Cleveland, the city of Cleveland in general, has won anything, and of course the Browns suck. So the fact that they got to enjoy that night, and the Indians won, by the way. They won Game 1, defeating the Cubs in the World Series, and LeBron and the Cavs absolutely demolished the New York Knicks in their home opener, and they got the rings and got to raise the banner and everything. So really cool for the city of Cleveland. Just a few days ago, actually, I went back and watched Game 7 of the NBA Finals again last year on YouTube, and I guess, you know, it just amazes me what the hell happened last year. That was pretty damn epic, the way they were down 3-1 against a team that was awesome, that would dominate it all year, set the record for the most wins ever. There was no chance in hell they were going to lose. I mean, they were going to win easily against LeBron and the Cavs and probably repeat as champs. And then out of nowhere, the Cavs just go crazy. LeBron goes off and proves that he's the superstar that he is. They're down 3-1. They win a pivotal Game 5 on the road. Then they go back home and win Game 6. And then they win Game 7 on the road in an arena that is nearly impossible to win in, especially since Golden State, I think, only lost one game or no games there all year. And then they dropped 2 in a row in the finals to LeBron and the Cavs. So that whole performance was unbelievable. Kevin Durant, of course, has now joined up with the Golden State Warriors, and they got their asses kicked in their home opener against the Spurs. So I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on Kevin Durant joining the Warriors. I like Kevin Durant. I think he's a great player, a great guy. I'm not really going to hold this against him. I didn't hold it against LeBron. LeBron had every right to leave Cleveland and go down to Miami, and a lot of people hated LeBron for that. But one thing I'll say in defense of LeBron, at least Miami wasn't a contender yet. LeBron and Wade and Bosh joining that team was going to make it a contender. Well, Wade was already there, but they were not going to contend for a title unless LeBron and Bosh went there, which they did. So a lot of people say, oh, LeBron sold out and he just joined up with his buddies so he could win a title. Well, Kevin Durant did the exact same thing, only he did it worse. Golden State without Kevin Durant I think was already a favorite to win the NBA title. So Kevin Durant was joining a team that is already a favorite. Bosh, Wade, and LeBron were forming a team that was going to be a favorite but really wasn't established yet. Golden State is established. They're already an NBA champion, and they were 1 minute away from repeating as champions last year. So Kevin Durant, I think, sold out a hell of a lot worse than LeBron did. Because even though LeBron and Bosh and Wade knew that they were going to form a super team down there, nothing was guaranteed. It could have been a failure, and for a short time there it was. So as much as I think the Warriors are a very entertaining team to watch, I think Steph Curry is amazing, and Klay Thompson is awesome, and Kevin Durant, of course, is a Hall of Famer, and Draymond Green, even though he's a little bit of an asshole, is a pretty damn good player as well. You know, that team's tough. They are tough as nails. So I'm pretty sure, provided everybody stays healthy, that we're going to see 3 years in a row of Cleveland and the Warriors. Only this time, if the Warriors win, it's like, well, fuck, you should win. Look at the team you've got. The problem with signing a star like Kevin Durant to a team that's already as good as the Warriors is that anything short of a title is a complete and total failure. They have to play this whole year. It doesn't matter what they do all year, all playoffs, nothing. It doesn't matter how many games they win. Everything is a complete failure and a complete waste of money if they walk away with anything less than a championship ring. And that's a lot of fucking pressure that the Warriors have put on themselves by signing Kevin Durant. I think they could have brought the exact same team back and changed nothing. They didn't have to change one single guy on that roster, and they would have made it to the finals again. So to add a piece like Kevin Durant, you know, this mega piece to a team that's already virtually unstoppable as it is, could backfire on them, and they got their asses whooped in that opener against the Spurs. So they could be in for a rude awakening, the Warriors. I like them. I like the team. I root for them. If they win the championship, good for them. But I'm not going to lie, saying I was rooting for Cleveland last year in that series. And if these two teams play again, I'm going to root for Cleveland again. So that'll pretty much wrap it up for tonight. Join me this Sunday. I will be live tweeting during the pay-per-view, and I will try to come up, or I will be up, with a reaction to the pay-per-view shortly after. It probably will be a quick reaction because I've got a lot going on Sunday night and Monday, but once the pay-per-view is over, I definitely will come up and give some thoughts on it. Enjoy the pay-per-view and leave me all your thoughts in the comments section below. I will catch you Sunday night after Hell in the Cell. Until then, peace.